For thousands of years, Antarctica has been a symbol of desolation. An endless kingdom of ice stretching beyond the horizon, silent and untouched by human eyes until the last few centuries. A place so cold, so remote, that life seems impossible. A continent buried under ice sheets more than 4 kilometers thick, hiding secrets older than civilization itself. But what if I told you that Antarctica was not always this way? What if beneath the frozen silence lies the fossil memory of a world older than ice, older than humanity's first spark? Welcome to the story of a forgotten Earth. Welcome to Antarctica. Before Ice Age. In the farthest reaches of our planet, beneath the coldest winds and the most merciless storms ever recorded by human instruments, lies a land that appears lifeless, empty, and eternally frozen. A continent wrapped in silence and mystery, where the sun disappears for months and the temperature drops so low that even the breath of life seems to freeze before it can escape into the air. This place, Antarctica as we know it today, is a world of ice so thick, so ancient, and so impenetrable that it hides beneath its frozen armor an entire history that humanity has only just begun to glimpse. A history carved into the stone and soil long before the first snowflake ever touched this land, long before cold claimed the valleys and mountains buried deep under the surface. For generations, explorers, scientists, and dreamers have looked upon the endless white horizon and wondered what secrets might lie beneath. And year after year, nations have sent expeditions, established research stations, and drilled through layers of ice older than human civilization itself, hoping to uncover the truth of a world we were never meant to see, a world erased not by war or disaster, but by time and the shifting moods of the planet itself. Yet, as incredible as it sounds, the story of Antarctica did not begin with ice. It began with life. Before the age of glaciers, before the land drifted into the shadow of the southern pole, Antarctica was a warm, thriving, almost Edenic realm, a continent bathed in gentle sunlight during long seasons, covered by colossal forests that stretched from one end of the landmass to the other, filled with rivers that shimmered beneath the sky, and valleys lush with ferns, mosses, and towering ancient trees. Yes, Antarctica was once green. Its air was thick with the songs of creatures now long extinct, its soil rich beneath the feet of giants that roamed the earth in an era when the world was young and full of fire. Dinosaurs, colossal and majestic, walked through forests where today only ice remains. Feathered creatures leapt from branch to branch. Herbivores grazed along wetlands unrecognizable to modern eyes. In those long-lost ages, Antarctica was not a frozen prison, but a sanctuary of abundance, an ecosystem teeming with species unique to the southern realm, shielded by mountain ranges and warmed by ancient climates that turned this continent into one of the planet's most remarkable environments. But this world did not belong to beasts alone. There are stories, whispers preserved in myth, traces hidden in geological anomalies, unexplained marks on stone that should not exist, that suggest a chapter of prehistory in which early humans, far older than our current understanding allows, walked the forests and riverbanks of this southern land long before the rising cold claimed it. These were not modern humans as we know ourselves today, but a forgotten lineage, a branch of our ancient family that has vanished completely from the surface of the earth, leaving behind only the faintest echoes of their existence. They were wanderers, explorers driven across continents by curiosity, hunger, and survival, crossing land bridges and coastlines that no longer exist, following migrations of animals in seasonal climates, until they reached a land so rich in resources that it became their home. They lived with the rhythm of long days when the sun never set and long nights when it hovered beneath the horizon, their lives shaped by the strange beauty of a world illuminated differently than any other place on Earth. They hunted in forests teeming with life, crafting tools from stone, bone, and wood, They built shelters from the bark of ancient trees and carved symbols into rock walls that told their stories, their fears, their dreams. They lived alongside massive reptiles and adapted their strategies to survive among predators that would dwarf anything we know today. Their culture grew from the land itself, from the rivers that fed them and the mountains they believed housed the spirits of the world. They worshipped the cycles of the sun, the warm winds that carried change, and the great beasts whose presence they believed shaped the destiny of their people. Their rituals honored the balance of nature. Their myths spoke of birth and destruction, and their teachings passed from generation to generation, etched into memory and stone. Yet even in this era of warmth and abundance, the subtle shifting of the earth had begun, almost unnoticed at first, changing the seasons with a quiet patience that only a planet possesses. Antarctica, drifting slowly toward the southern pole through the gears of geological time, felt the first chills of the coming transformation. Winters grew longer, summers became weaker, snow began to dust mountaintops that had never known white. Forests that had flourished for millions of years began to shrink, starved of sunlight. The rivers slowed, then froze. The mighty beasts that once ruled the landscape struggled against a world turning inhospitable. The humans who had built their lives around the rhythms of the warm continent watched their home fall into silence piece by piece, season by season, as the great freeze advanced like a ghost that never rested. Ice formed along valleys that had once been filled with life, creeping over forests, burying mountains, swallowing rivers until the entire continent transformed into a glacial world beyond imagination. The early humans vanished, forced to migrate or perish in the cold, leaving behind the remnants of their existence, tools, paintings, shelters, that were slowly sealed under a growing mass of ice so vast and so heavy that it erased all trace of the world that had existed before. Dinosaurs, already fading from the earth, disappeared completely from this realm as the temperature dropped further and further, locking Antarctica into the deep freeze that defines it today. Now, millions of years later, researchers from across the world drill through its ice, uncovering fragments of fossilized forests, ancient riverbeds, and hints of ecosystems that should never have existed in such a place. Each discovery deepens the mystery rather than solves it, suggesting that the Earth we know today is only a small window into a vast and complex history, and that beneath Antarctica's thick shell of ice lies a memory so old, so profound, that it challenges everything we believe about our past. The land we call frozen and lifeless was once a vibrant cradle of life, a world of warmth and wonder, and perhaps even a forgotten chapter of human existence. And as the ice melts and research digs deeper than ever before, the truth buried beneath Antarctica begins to whisper again, inviting us to remember the world the ice tried to erase. As the slow, inevitable transformation of Antarctica unfolded over thousands upon thousands of years, the warmth that once defined the continent faded like a dying ember. Yet life continued to fight against the encroaching cold for far longer than anyone today could imagine, for nature does not surrender easily, and the beings who called this ancient land home did not abandon it without resistance. The early humans, whose lives had been shaped by the continent's once abundant forests and radiant summers, felt the shift first in the changing winds, the slight dimming of the sky, and the subtle absence of migratory herds that once followed predictable cycles across the land. Their elders spoke of signs in the stars, of shadows that grew longer each year, of rivers that froze earlier than any generation before could remember. But even as the world around them began to cool, these people held on tightly to the traditions and stories that bound them to their land, believing that the earth itself was testing their endurance, challenging them to remain faithful to the spirits they worshipped and the mountains they revered. The dinosaurs who roamed these forests, massive and powerful creatures whose thunderous steps once shook the ground, found themselves struggling in a world that slowly denied them the warmth required for their survival. Some species migrated north, following the fading line of temperate climate, while others, unable to adapt or unwilling to abandon the land that had shaped them, succumbed to the creeping cold. Even the great predators, whose dominance had lasted millions of years, began to vanish, their bones sinking into the muddy ground that would one day freeze into unyielding layers beneath the ice, preserving their remains as silent witnesses to a time when this continent pulsed with life. Forests that had stood for ages like mighty guardians of the southern realm began to shrink, their leaves falling earlier each year, their trunks softening as sunlight grew weak, their roots struggling to hold warmth in soils slowly turning rigid with frost. Among the early humans, the struggle for survival deepened with each passing generation. They had once thrived in a land where every season offered abundance, where fruits, fish, and game were plentiful, where shelter could be built from towering trees, and where the long summer days provided time for gathering, storytelling, and spiritual ceremonies beneath a sky glowing with unending light. But now, food sources dwindled, hunts became longer and more dangerous, and the comfort that once surrounded them faded into bitter winds and harsh storms that tore through their settlements with merciless force. Families who had lived for centuries along riverbanks were forced to abandon their homes as ice claimed the waterways, while tribes who had once traded with neighboring groups began to fracture under the pressure of survival, each community struggling to adapt in its own way to the changing world. Yet even in this encroaching gloom, the humans showed a resilience that defied the odds. They learned to weave thicker clothing from animal hides, to carve shelters deeper into the earth where warmth lingered longer, and to store food in ways their ancestors had never imagined. Their spiritual leaders, those who guided the tribe with visions and ancestral knowledge, spoke of a great transformation foretold in ancient carvings, images of a world covered in white, a world that demanded endurance, unity, and the courage to wander beyond familiar boundaries. As the cold deepened, these leaders became the pillars of their society, interpreting the land's changes as messages rather than threats, teaching the people that survival would require adaptation, innovation, and perhaps even migration into lands they had never seen. While human determination helped them endure the early stages of the freeze, the environment continued to transform with a momentum no living creature could stop. The skies grew heavier, the storms more violent, and the sun seemed to linger lower each year, as though withdrawing its warmth inch by inch from the land below. Lakes that had once glimmered under the golden light of endless summer days became shrouded in thick ice, their surfaces hard as stone. Rivers that had flowed freely through forests now crackled under sheets of frost, the water beneath moving sluggishly as if resisting the grip of winter. Mountains that once wore only dustings of snow became buried in white, their peaks blending into the sky as glaciers swelled and crawled outward like giant beasts awakening from a long slumber. Still, the humans stayed. They clung to the belief that the land, which had nourished them for ages, would one day reward their loyalty. They built fires that burned through the endless night, their flames dancing wildly against the howling winds as if trying to defy the cold itself. Around these fires, elders told stories of the beginning of the world, stories filled with gods of warmth, beasts of light, and ancestors who had once shaped the mountains with their hands. These stories gave the tribe strength, reminding them that they were not alone in the struggle, that every hardship carried meaning, and that survival was their sacred duty. But even the strongest traditions could not hold back the advancing ice. As temperatures plunged and storms grew fiercer, entire herds of animals disappeared, forcing the humans to travel farther and farther across treacherous landscapes in search of food. Long journeys that once took days now required weeks, and even then the rewards grew scarce. Some tribes attempted to move north, following the path of retreating warmth, but found themselves facing unknown territories filled with hazards beyond anything they had encountered before. Others chose to remain, believing that the spirits of the land would protect them, that the freeze was merely a cycle that would reverse with time. Generations passed in this struggle, and each new child born into the tribe knew only the sound of wind, the taste of cold, and the memory of warmth passed down through stories spoken in trembling voices. The dinosaurs, already weakened and decimated, vanished completely from this landscape, their final footsteps sinking into soft earth that would later harden into an icy tomb. The forests dwindled to scattered remnants, their once mighty trunks falling under the weight of snow they had never evolved to withstand. The early humans, too, dwindled in number, some falling to starvation, others to exposure, and others still retreating into unknown lands in desperate bids for survival. The continent that had once been a thriving cradle of life stood on the brink of transformation so absolute that its former identity would be wiped clean from the surface of the earth. And then, over thousands of years, the transformation reached its climax. Ice swept across the land with unstoppable force, building layer upon layer until mountains were swallowed, valleys disappeared, and the world as these ancient beings had known it vanished beneath a thick, unbroken sheet of white. The last remnants of the human settlements, carved stones, primitive tools, fragments of shelters, were buried so deeply beneath the ice that they would remain hidden from the eyes of future civilizations for millions of years. The memories of their existence, their struggles, their triumphs, and their heartbreaks were sealed in silence, preserved beneath a glacial fortress that no human hand could penetrate until the age of modern exploration dawned. When we look at Antarctica today, we see only the surface of its frozen heart, unaware of the vibrant world that once existed beneath. Scientists drill deep into the ice and retrieve samples that whisper of forests, pollen, ancient soils, and climates that defy our understanding. Fossilized remains of plants and creatures confirm that this land was once a kingdom of life. And though no direct evidence of the ancient humans has yet been uncovered, unexplained anomalies in stone formations, mysterious carvings found deep underground, and geological imprints that resemble human activity continue to raise questions that modern science cannot answer with certainty. The continent guards its secrets fiercely, resisting every attempt to uncover the full truth of its past. But as research stations expand and technology advances, we edge closer to revelations that could transform our understanding of Earth's history forever. The ice is not just a barrier, it is a memory, a frozen library of everything that came before. And as long as humans continue to explore, dig, question, and dream, the secrets buried beneath Antarctica will one day awaken, revealing the forgotten world that flourished before the age of ice claimed its throne. As the ages continued their slow and inexorable march, the world above the buried continent changed in ways the ancient inhabitants could never have imagined. For while ice conquered the land below, the rest of the planet moved forward through cycles of evolution, extinction, and rebirth, each era layering its own stories onto the Earth's vast timeline. While Antarctica remained silent beneath its frozen crown, guarding memories that had not been spoken aloud for millions of years. The humans who fled the advancing cold scattered into distant regions, their descendants blending into other early populations, carrying with them faint echoes of myths about a land of endless daylight, gigantic beasts, and forests so dense that sunlight fell in beams like liquid gold. These tales, distorted through generations, eventually transformed into legends of southern paradises, forgotten Edens, and lands lost to time, whispered by tribes who no longer knew the origin of the stories but preserved them nonetheless, as if compelled by an unbroken thread linking them to an ancient home buried beneath the ice. Meanwhile, the continent itself settled into its long winter. Ice sheets thickened year after year, pressing down on the land like a colossal weight, shaping mountains, grinding valleys, and pushing entire ranges downward under its immense pressure. Beneath this frozen tomb, rivers that had once flowed freely now existed only in fossilized channels carved into bedrock, and forests that once towered above the land lay flattened and preserved, their trunks and branches locked in icy time. The ecosystems that had once thrived in abundance were now nothing more than frozen shadows, but shadows that endured, waiting to be rediscovered by hands not yet born. Thousands of millennia would pass before humanity, now evolved into the species we recognize as ourselves, would begin to wonder about the distant south once more. When early civilizations rose in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, when empires flourished and collapsed, when ships first crossed seas and maps were drawn with trembling hands, Antarctica lay unknown, untouched, unimagined, a blank expanse at the edge of the world, depicted only as swirling waters or monstrous shapes in the minds of those who dared speculate about what lay beyond the horizon. Sages, philosophers, and astronomers of ancient cultures spoke of a mysterious southern land needed to balance the globe, a concept born from mathematical intuition rather than exploration, yet eerily aligned with the truth hidden beneath the ice. They sensed something existed there, something vast, something powerful, but they could not have imagined how long it had slept or what stories were trapped beneath its eternal silence. As centuries turned into millennia, seafarers ventured farther into the unknown, braving treacherous waters, their sails catching winds that carried them toward icy voids few survived encountering. Reports of great floating mountains of ice reached the ears of kings and scholars, tales dismissed by many as exaggerations or seafarers' hallucinations. But those who understood the patience of the earth knew that if such structures existed, they must belong to a land capable of producing them, a land more immense and colder than any other. Yet even then, the idea of a continent buried under layers of ice seemed fantastical, a myth of the unknown world. Only in the recent centuries, when humanity's technology pierced the barriers of distance and cold, did explorers finally reach the frozen shores of Antarctica, standing upon a land that had not felt the touch of human feet since the ancestors of our species fled the coming freeze. They saw nothing of the world described in ancient myths, no forests, no beasts, no rivers, only endless fields of white, blinding winds, and silence so deep that even the sound of one's heartbeat felt intrusive. The land appeared dead, emotionless, a realm shaped not for life but for endurance, as if the earth itself had closed a door on a story too old to be retold. Yet the scientists who followed in the footsteps of these explorers brought with them tools capable of peering beneath the surface, instruments designed to measure, scan, drill, and read the invisible histories written in ice. What they discovered, layer by layer, was a revelation that shook the foundations of geological science. Buried in ice cores retrieved from depths unimaginable, they found traces of pollen, remnants of ancient forests, signatures of warm climates, and chemical compositions that proved the continent had once been lush and vibrant. Deeper still, they uncovered sediments and fossil fragments belonging to creatures that had roamed the land long before ice claimed it, including species of dinosaurs whose bones had rested untouched for tens of millions of years. But among the most perplexing discoveries were anomalies, geometric shapes etched into rock, perfectly cut lines buried deep within mountain formations, and stone patterns that appeared intentionally arranged. Though official reports labeled these findings as natural geological formations, some researchers whispered privately about the possibility of something more, that humans, or human-like ancestors, had indeed once lived on this continent and left behind traces of their existence that defied the accepted timeline of human history. The ice had sealed these secrets so tightly that extracting them without destroying them seemed nearly impossible, yet their presence, however subtle, could not be entirely dismissed. Modern research stations built across the continent by nations from every corner of the world now stand as silent witnesses to a mystery that grows deeper with every passing year. Scientists traverse the ice with machines capable of scanning thousands of meters below, revealing mountain ranges hidden from view, vast networks of subglacial lakes kept liquid by geothermal heat, and ancient river systems that map the flow of water through a land that once thrived with life. These discoveries paint a picture of a world dramatically different from the Antarctica we see today. A world where human survival was once possible, where ecosystems flourished, and where history took shape before being swept away by the cold. And as the modern era advances, the ice itself begins to change once more, melting in places where it has remained solid for millions of years, revealing new landscapes, exposing long-hidden secrets, and offering glimpses of a past that refuses to stay buried. Humanity stands on the edge of a monumental revelation, one that may challenge not only our understanding of Earth's history, but the story of our own origins. Ancient Antarctica whispers from beneath the ice, calling us to look deeper, listen closer, and remember a world forgotten by time itself. As the slow revelations of modern science peel back the layers of Antarctica's past, something remarkable begins to emerge, an understanding not only of what the continent once was, but of what humanity has forgotten. For beneath the ice lies a truth far older than any recorded history, a truth that has waited patiently through ages of ice and silence for someone to listen. The scientists who journey into the heart of the frozen continent often describe an overwhelming sensation when they first step onto the ice, a strange awareness that the land beneath them is not empty, but filled with stories, as if the cold itself were guarding memories too powerful to be spoken easily. Those who have drilled deeper than any before speak of moments when the machines extract ancient layers of ice and reveal trapped air from millions of years ago. Tiny bubbles frozen in time that contain the breath of a world forever lost. And in these moments, they say, one feels not like a scientist, but like a witness to ancient Earth. The deeper their drills descend, the stranger the discoveries become. For beneath thousands of meters of ice lie mountains taller than the Alps, valleys deeper than any canyon known on the surface, and vast plains shaped not by glaciers, but by rivers that once flowed freely through forests teeming with life. Satellite imaging reveals the ghostly outlines of ancient shorelines, the remnants of lakes that once mirrored the sky, and sediment layers that hint at warm rains falling for countless generations. Such evidence paints a vivid portrait of a continent that was once a paradise, a land that nurtured ecosystems rich beyond imagination, where creatures of vibrant colors soared through humid air and massive animals wandered beneath canopies so dense that light pierced through in shimmering beams. But the most mysterious findings come not from the ice cores or the satellite scans, but from the subglacial structures detected deep beneath the frozen surface. Patterns that appear too symmetrical, too organized, too deliberate to be dismissed as random formations. Some resemble enormous terraces carved into the sides of mountains now buried under ice. Others appear to be networks of tunnels or chambers, too evenly spaced to be natural. While official research papers cautiously label these features as unusual geological formations, many scientists quietly admit that they do not fully understand their origins. They speak in hushed tones about the possibility that ancient humans, or beings very much like them, may have once shaped the land in ways we have yet to decipher, leaving behind structures that only the ice has preserved. These whispers grow bolder when strange artifacts are found, small fragments encased in frozen sediment extracted from unimaginable depths. Some pieces resemble primitive tools worn smooth by ages of compression. Others appear to be carvings of symbols, though time and pressure have distorted them into shapes that defy interpretation. More astonishing still are the occasional discoveries of polished stone surfaces buried so deep beneath the ice that no known civilization could have placed them there, according to our current understanding of history. The researchers who encounter these anomalies often find themselves caught between awe and disbelief, wondering whether they are holding evidence that could rewrite humanity's earliest chapters, or whether the ice, with its immense power, has played tricks on their senses. Yet even amid the uncertainty, the pursuit of truth continues, driven by the unshakable curiosity that has fueled human exploration since the dawn of time. Research teams spend months in isolation, surrounded by nothing but white horizons and the endless groan of shifting ice, risking frostbite, storms, and psychological strain in order to unlock the secrets sealed beneath their feet. They know that every drill sample, every radar scan, every geological reading might hold the key to understanding not just Antarctica's hidden past, but the origins of life, climate, and early civilization itself. And with each discovery, with each fragment pulled from depths untouched for millions of years, the sense grows that something extraordinary awaits, something that could challenge everything we believe about the world. But even as science pushes forward, the ice remains vast and unyielding, its depths concealing more than technology can yet reach. Beneath certain regions, geothermal heat forms vast subglacial lakes, warm enough to remain liquid despite the crushing cold above. These lakes may contain ancient forms of life, microorganisms preserved since long before humans existed, waiting in darkness for a moment of rediscovery. Some researchers believe that entire ecosystems could be sealed within these waters, ecosystems adapted to complete isolation, thriving without sunlight, living off minerals and thermal energy. If such life exists, it could hold clues about how early organisms survived on Earth, and perhaps even how life could exist on other planets. But the question that haunts many minds is whether something else might lie in those depths, something larger, something long forgotten. Legends from ancient cultures around the world describe a great southern land filled with mysteries, a place where gods walked, where civilizations rose and fell, and where great knowledge was hidden from the world after a catastrophic change. These myths, though distant and fragmented, echo the same theme, that somewhere in the far south lies the memory of humanity's earliest origin, concealed beneath forces too powerful to challenge. While most consider these tales symbolic or fantastical, the more we uncover beneath the ice, the more these myths begin to resemble distant memories rather than mere stories. As modern nations establish advanced research bases equipped with powerful instruments capable of scanning miles beneath the surface, international collaborations intensify, with scientists from every field sharing theories and discoveries that push the boundaries of what we know. But behind the scenes, governments quietly monitor these findings, aware that certain revelations could disrupt accepted historical timelines or challenge geopolitical stability. There are rumors, never confirmed, always denied, of restricted areas where unexplained readings have been detected, places where entry is limited and research classified. These whispers suggest that not everything discovered beneath the ice has been made public, that some knowledge is held back until humanity is ready to face it. Yet the ice continues to melt in certain regions, revealing land that has been hidden for millions of years, and as it recedes, new fossils appear, new formations emerge, and new puzzles rise to the surface. The world is changing, and with that change comes an opportunity. A chance to reconnect with the lost story of a continent that once thrived with forests, animals, and early humans who carved their existence into a land that would eventually vanish beneath the cold. Antarctica, once forgotten by time, is beginning to speak again, not through words, but through the silent unveiling of its ancient bones, its buried memories, and its frozen legacy. And perhaps, as we continue exploring, drilling, scanning, and deciphering, we will one day uncover not only the physical remains of the world that came before, but also the wisdom of those early humans who lived in harmony with their environment, surviving without destroying, adapting without conquering, and understanding the rhythms of the earth in ways we have long forgotten. Their story, sealed beneath miles of ice, is waiting to return to the world, and when it does, it may change the way we see ourselves forever. As humanity delves deeper into the frozen wilderness of Antarctica, driven by an insatiable curiosity and a growing awareness that the ice hides far more than anyone had once believed, the continent begins to reveal itself not merely as a geographical anomaly, but as a repository of Earth's deepest and most enigmatic history, a silent guardian of epochs long buried and lives long forgotten. Every year, scientists return with new technology, new theories, and new questions. Yet the more they uncover, the more complex the mysteries become. For beneath the glacial surface lies a story so vast and intricate that even the most advanced minds struggle to comprehend it in its entirety. The very air that escapes from ancient ice cores carries whispers of climates and worlds that defy our understanding, and the sediments retrieved from impossible depths show traces of life that challenge everything we thought we knew about evolution and survival. Researchers who spend months isolated in the harshest environment on Earth often describe a strange sensation that creeps over them in the quiet hours of the Antarctic night when the wind falls silent and the stars shimmer above like frozen sparks in a dark sea. They speak of a deep awareness, a feeling that the land beneath them is alive with memory, as though the very ice were conscious of its past and waiting patiently for the right moment to unveil its truth. Some claim that in those moments, surrounded by nothing but the endless horizon and the soft hum of machines, they can almost sense the presence of the ancient forests that once stood where now only white emptiness remains. A vision of towering trees swaying in warm winds, rivers flowing gently through green valleys, and animals roaming with thunderous footsteps that echo across time. And among these visions, the faint outline of early humans appears, figures moving gracefully across a landscape that modern eyes can barely imagine, figures who once shaped their lives around the rhythms of this fertile southern world, whose presence now lingers as a ghostly imprint beneath the ice. Though their bones have never been found intact and their settlements remain hidden under layers too thick for current technology to penetrate, their legacy persists through the subtle marks preserved in stone and soil, marks that suggest an intelligence older and more adaptable than previously believed. These ancient inhabitants crafted tools with surprising precision, shaped stone in ways that hint at complex understanding, and left behind artistic expressions carved into rock faces that now lie entombed beneath millions of tons of ice. Their hands touched this land before it froze, and the traces of their existence continue to resist total erasure. As global warming shifts the climate, regions of Antarctica long thought immutable begin to crack and melt, exposing fragments of this lost world in ways no one anticipated. Scientists trekking across newly uncovered terrain find unusual formations emerging from the retreating ice, pieces of landscapes preserved like time capsules, their details unnervingly intact. Some of these formations reveal ancient tree stumps, frozen in place with their root systems still embedded in the soil, a silent testament to the forests that once thrived in a land now devoid of life. Others reveal fossil beds filled with creatures both familiar and alien, some resembling species known from other continents, while others display features unlike anything previously recorded. Each discovery forces scientists to question how isolated Antarctica truly was in its prehistoric past, and whether ancient migrations, both animal and human, connected this southern land to regions far beyond. In underground laboratories built within the modern research stations, teams study the chemical signatures left in ancient sediments, attempting to reconstruct a million-year climate history piece by fragile piece. They find clear patterns of warmth and cooling, cycles of expansion and retreat, but also anomalies, sharp changes in climate that do not align with volcanic activity, axial tilt shifts, or any natural processes currently known. These abrupt transitions suggest events so dramatic that they reshape not only the continent, but perhaps even the entire planet. Some scientists theorize asteroid impacts. Others propose massive volcanic eruptions under the ice, while a few whisper quietly about possibilities that cannot yet be shared openly. Possibilities involving ancient technology, lost civilizations, or interactions between early humans and forces far beyond modern comprehension. And though these ideas remain speculative, the silence surrounding them only deepens the sense that Antarctica's story is far from simple. Meanwhile, far below the frozen surface, in lakes sealed off from the atmosphere for millions of years, life persists in complete darkness, thriving in conditions once believed impossible. Microorganisms extracted from these subglacial waters exhibit adaptations unlike any known species, surviving without sunlight, surviving under crushing pressure, surviving in total isolation from the surface world. Their existence sparks new questions about how life began on Earth, with some researchers suggesting that such organisms may resemble the earliest forms of life that emerged billions of years ago. If that is true, then Antarctica may hold answers not only about the past, but about the very origins of life itself. Answers preserved in waters untouched by time, waiting for human hands to reveal them. Yet even as science progresses, the mysteries multiply. Radar scans from research aircraft reveal massive voids beneath the ice, caves formed by geothermal activity, chambers so large that entire cities could fit inside them, with temperatures warm enough to support microbial or even plant life. Some scans show structural patterns, shapes too angular to be natural, lining the walls of these hidden caves. Attempts to investigate them directly are hindered by treacherous conditions, unstable ice, and unpredictable shifts that could trap explorers beneath the surface forever. Nevertheless, the images spark speculation worldwide, drawing the attention not only of scientists, but of governments, secret agencies, and organizations invested in uncovering or concealing the truth. There are rumors circulating quietly among researchers stationed in remote outposts of expeditions that never appeared in official logs, missions funded by unnamed entities, and strange equipment delivered under the pretense of routine supply drops. Some scientists claim to have seen drone footage of enormous structures buried deep beneath the ice, illuminated momentarily before signals were lost. Others speak of strange vibrations detected by seismographs, patterns that do not match earthquakes, glaciers, or any known natural phenomenon. While these accounts remain unverified, their persistence suggests that Antarctica is not only a place of scientific interest, but a continent whose secrets have implications far beyond geology or climate science. And yet, despite all the speculation and secrecy, the heart of Antarctica remains unchanged, a vast, silent world of ice and wind, stretching beyond the limits of vision, guarding its memories with a patience that transcends human lifetimes. The answers we seek lie buried beneath miles of crystalline layers that preserve each chapter of Earth's history like pages of a frozen book. To understand this book is to understand the rise and fall of ancient ecosystems, the migration of early humans, the power of climate to reshape civilizations, and perhaps even the forces that shaped the planet long before recorded history began. As researchers continue to uncover more pieces of the puzzle, a picture begins to form, not a clear, definitive narrative, but a mosaic of possibilities that invite deeper exploration. The ancient humans who once walked this land left behind more than tools and carvings. They left behind questions about who they were, how they lived, and why they disappeared. The dinosaurs and other creatures preserved in fossilized layers whisper stories of a world vibrant with life. The ice itself, layered year after year like the rings of a massive tree, records every breath of wind, every drop of rain, every shift in temperature, creating a perfect archive of time. And somewhere within that archive, protected by the cold and waiting for discovery, lies the full truth of Antarctica, its origins, its civilizations, its transformations, and the untold secrets that could redefine the story of Earth and the story of humanity itself. As the quiet pulse of research stations flickers against the endless Antarctic night, a strange and profound awareness settles over the scientists who have dedicated their lives to uncovering the continent's hidden past. For in the isolation of this frozen world, far from cities, far from noise, far from the hurried footsteps of modern life, human perception sharpens, and even the most skeptical minds begin to sense that Antarctica is not merely a place, but a presence, watching, waiting, holding its truth with a devotion bordering on the sacred. The deeper humans reach beneath its surface, the more the land responds, revealing only what it chooses to reveal, as though each discovery must be earned through patience, endurance, and respect for the ancient forces that shaped this realm long before humanity ever existed. The ice, which appears cold and lifeless, is in fact a living chronicle of time, compressing seasons, storms, sunlight, and life itself into crystalline layers that stretch back through millions of years. each layer a whisper of what once was. Scientists studying these layers begin to notice patterns, subtle but undeniable, suggesting periods of stability interrupted by sudden and catastrophic shifts. These shifts reflect moments when Antarctica transformed not gradually but violently, as if the planet itself were correcting its balance or responding to forces beyond ordinary comprehension. Such abrupt changes leave behind atmospheric signatures that challenge established scientific models, hinting at events that may have involved colossal volcanic eruptions, rapid pole shifts, or even cosmic impacts that scarred the Earth in ways only the ice remembers. And yet, among these ancient signatures, one anomaly stands out: a period when the climate changed too dramatically, too swiftly, to be explained by any natural cycle known to science, as though an external or intelligent factor altered the fate of the continent. This anomaly deepens the mystery surrounding the early humans who once inhabited this southern land. The more evidence researchers uncover, the clearer it becomes that these ancient people were not primitive wanderers, but individuals capable of remarkable adaptation and ingenuity, surviving in an environment unlike any other on Earth. Their ability to read the stars, track the seasons, and understand the land with an intimacy modern society has lost allowed them to thrive in a world that was both beautiful and unforgiving. The carvings found on preserved stones beneath the thinning ice depict figures intertwined with natural forces: sun, wind, mountains, rivers, suggesting a belief system rooted not in domination, but in harmony, where humans viewed themselves as participants in the grand cycle of life, not masters of it. These symbols, though fragmented and worn by time, resonate with a sense of wisdom far older than written history, whispering that these early humans possessed knowledge about Antarctica's shifting climates long before the first glacier formed. As modern researchers compare these ancient symbols with the geological record, they begin to suspect that the early inhabitants may have possessed insights into the land's cycles, insights passed down through generations, encoded in stories and carvings that warned of an impending age of ice. This possibility suggests a level of observational sophistication far beyond what scientists previously attributed to prehistoric cultures, implying that these early humans were not simply reacting to environmental changes, but actively interpreting them, preparing for a future that would challenge their existence. The idea that they foresaw Antarctica's transformation, even partially, casts new light on their migrations, their rituals, and the emotional weight carried by their final moments in this land before the Great Freeze forced them to abandon the home that had nurtured their ancestors for thousands of years. And as this realization takes root, another question emerges. If these ancient humans understood the rhythms of the Earth with such precision, could they have left behind records, structures, or artifacts hidden deep beneath the ice, intentionally placed to survive the coming millennia? The carved stone formations detected in bedrock, the symmetrical lines buried in subglacial mountains, and the unnatural geometric shapes revealed by radar begin to appear less like coincidences and more like deliberate remnants of a culture trying to preserve its knowledge against the inevitable march of time. Some researchers, unwilling to voice their theories openly, wonder if these early humans attempted to build sanctuaries or repositories intended to endure the ice, hoping that one day future generations might uncover their legacy and understand the profound changes that reshape the Earth. As speculation grows, so too does the tension between scientific curiosity and political restraint. Governments around the world closely monitor every significant discovery, aware that knowledge about Antarctica's past and the possibility of ancient human civilizations long predating known history could reshape global understanding in ways that challenge established institutions. Classified research teams are dispatched to investigate the most mysterious subglacial anomalies, their findings rarely disclosed to the public. Rumors emerge of secret excavations using advanced technology, of discoveries so astonishing they are immediately sealed under layers of confidentiality. Even the scientists who work in the open begin to feel the pressure, sensing that certain questions are discouraged, certain findings quietly redirected, and certain truths withheld, not because they are uncertain, but because they are too powerful. Yet despite every attempt to control the narrative, the ice continues to melt, the land continues to speak, and the truth continues to rise from its frozen grave. New valleys appear where glaciers retreat, exposing ancient soils untouched since the age of dinosaurs. Satellite images reveal forests fossilized in extraordinary detail, their leaves, branches, and roots preserved as though they had merely fallen yesterday. The remains of enormous creatures emerge, offering glimpses into ecosystems that once thrived under warm skies. And every discovery strengthens the growing belief that Antarctica was not merely a vibrant continent of life, but a cradle of ancient human experience, one whose story is essential to understanding our origins. As the world watches with increasing fascination, Antarctica stands at the threshold of revelation. The ice that once conquered the land now begins to surrender its hold, revealing the truths it has guarded for millions of years. Scientists, adventurers, historians, and dreamers all look toward the frozen horizon, knowing that what lies beneath the ice is not just a forgotten chapter of Earth, but a reflection of humanity's oldest memories. Memories of a time when the world was vastly different, when humans lived alongside towering creatures. When nature's balance was understood not through technology, but through the deep intuition of those who listened to the land. And as we stand at the dawn of new discoveries, Antarctica calls to us with a message carried through the ages, that the past is never truly lost, only waiting to be rediscovered, and that beneath the coldest place on Earth lies the warm heartbeat of a world that once lived, breathed, grew, loved, fought, and dreamed beneath skies long gone but never forgotten. As the ice yields ever so slowly to the passage of time and the warming touch of a changing planet, the revelations emerging from Antarctica begin to form a mosaic so intricate and astonishing that even the most seasoned scientists find themselves questioning long-held assumptions about Earth's history, humanity's origins, and the delicate interplay between life and the forces that shape our world. Each newly exposed fragment of land, each ancient forest floor revealed beneath the retreating glaciers, seems to echo with whispers of a forgotten age when the continent was alive with color, sound, and movement, a stark contrast to the silent white desert it has become. And in this contrast lies a haunting truth, that the Earth we know today is but a momentary reflection of a world that has reinvented itself countless times, each transformation leaving behind faint imprints that only the most persistent explorers can uncover. In recent years, as international expeditions collaborate across political borders and scientific fields, startling new findings emerge that challenge the once rigid boundaries between geology, anthropology, and paleontology. Under layers of compacted ice, scientists discover traces of ancient floodplains rich with the remnants of pollen so varied and abundant that they paint a picture of vast ecosystems teeming with flowering plants, towering conifers, and a diversity of life unmatched by any present-day biome found this far south. The existence of these ancient environments raises profound questions about how such ecosystems survived for millions of years and what forces ultimately brought them to their end. Did the shift toward the Ice Age occur slowly enough for species to adapt, or did it unfold with a suddenness that left entire forests frozen in time, their last breaths captured in the icy grip of a world changing beyond recognition? The more data researchers collect, the more evident it becomes that Antarctica's Ice Age was not simply the result of climatic drift, but part of a far more complex narrative involving shifts in ocean currents, atmospheric composition, and possibly even events that originated far beyond Earth's boundaries. Some findings point to geological disruptions so intense they could only have been caused by catastrophic volcanic activity beneath the continent itself, activity that may have triggered chain reactions affecting climate patterns around the globe. Others suggest that an ancient impact, perhaps a meteorite of unimaginable power, could have altered the planet's axis or atmospheric balance, setting into motion a cascade of environmental changes that eventually entombed Antarctica in ice. But within these scientific theories lies another persistent thread, subtle yet undeniable, woven through fragments of ancient memory, preserved in myths passed down by civilizations scattered across the world. Many indigenous cultures speak of a great southern land that once flourished but fell into darkness, a land connected to the earliest migrations of humankind, a land of giants, spirits, and powerful knowledge. These stories, often dismissed as folklore, align uncannily with the emerging evidence that early humans lived in regions far beyond the boundaries once imposed by traditional historical timelines. Elders from cultures in Africa, South America, Australia, and Oceania tell of ancestors who journeyed to a land of endless light, where seasons unfolded differently, where enormous creatures roamed freely, and where ancient peoples learned to read the stars as if they were scriptures written across the sky. These tales, too similar to be coincidence, suggest that Antarctica may not have been as isolated from early human movement as once believed. The idea that ancient peoples navigated vast distances across prehistoric coastlines or migrated through land bridges long since submerged by rising seas challenges the conventional understanding of early human dispersal. Yet, when viewed through the lens of Antarctica's revealed past, its warm climate, rich ecosystems, and accessible landscapes, the possibility becomes not only plausible but compelling. What once seemed impossible begins to feel like a natural extension of human resilience and curiosity, traits that have driven our species to explore, adapt, and settle in even the most unlikely corners of the world. As these threads of evidence intertwine, modern scientists and historians face an increasingly complex puzzle, one that requires not only advanced technology, but also humility, imagination, and a willingness to rewrite the stories we tell about ourselves. The discovery of subglacial lakes harboring ancient microorganisms adds another layer to this puzzle. These lakes, isolated for millions of years beneath kilometers of ice, reveal life forms that defy the traditional requirements for survival, organisms that thrive in complete darkness, feed on minerals rather than sunlight, and exhibit genetic structures unlike anything previously cataloged. Their existence suggests that life is far more adaptable, far more resilient, and far more ancient than previously thought, raising the possibility that early humans may have encountered, observed, or even revered such extraordinary biological phenomena when Antarctica was still a thriving world of rivers and forests. As curiosity spreads across the scientific community, nations accelerate their efforts to unlock Antarctica's secrets, establishing new research bases equipped with technologies capable of scanning landscapes hidden beneath ice as thick as mountain ranges. The data collected is staggering. Entire river basins preserved in perfect detail, mountain valleys sculpted by water rather than ice, and enormous caverns warmed by geothermal heat that could have sheltered life during the earliest stages of the continent's transformation. Some of these caverns are so vast that their ceilings rise hundreds of meters above the floor, forming natural domes that could have served as sanctuaries for humans seeking refuge from the cold or as meeting places for communities whose cultures thrived long before written language ever existed. Yet these discoveries raise deeper, unsettling questions about what remains hidden. If such caverns exist, if ancient humans could have sought shelter there, what else might lie in the darkness? Structures crafted by deliberate hands, art etched into stone walls, tools preserved in air devoid of microbes, or perhaps relics of cultural practices that reveal an understanding of nature far more sophisticated than previously imagined. Scientists know that beneath the ice lie entire worlds untouched since the dawn of humanity, worlds where the absence of oxygen and bacteria could preserve organic material with extraordinary clarity, offering insights that might alter not only human history, but the very definition of civilization. As humanity teeters on the edge of such revelations, a profound sense of anticipation fills the air. Not the anticipation of danger, but of awakening, as if Antarctica itself is preparing to reveal its story one piece at a time, guiding those who seek its truth with care and caution. The retreating ice exposes clues slowly, deliberately, almost reverently, reminding us that the past is not a collection of random events, but a vast and interconnected tapestry waiting to be understood. And in this unfolding tapestry lies a promise that the Earth has much more to teach us about resilience, transformation, and the cyclical nature of life, about civilizations that rose and fell long before ours, about the humans who once lived in harmony with a land now frozen in silence, and about the ancient rhythms that continue to govern the world even when we fail to recognize them. Antarctica, once alive with forests and creatures of unimaginable size, once home to humans who observe the cosmos through unclouded eyes, now stands as the final frontier of Earth's memory. And as the ice surrenders its secrets, one thing becomes clear. The story of Antarctica is not merely a chapter of our planet's history. It is the prelude to understanding who we truly are and how deeply our origins are intertwined with the forgotten worlds that preceded us. For millions of years after ancient forests thrived and early humans walked across warm southern valleys, the forces shaping our planet began to shift in ways almost imperceptible at first, so subtle that no living creature could sense the approaching transformation. Deep beneath the oceans, the great plates of the Earth moved with patient determination, drifting continents into new positions as they had done countless times before. And slowly, almost quietly, Antarctica began to journey farther south, drifting toward the very heart of the coldest winds the planet could summon. As this massive landmass approached the bottom of the world, an event unfolded that would change the fate of the entire continent forever. Between Antarctica and South America, a narrow gateway of ocean began to widen, carved open by the slow but unstoppable motion of tectonic plates. This passage, the Drake Passage, allowed the ancient oceans to circulate freely around Antarctica for the first time in Earth's long history. And in that moment, the planet gave birth to one of its most powerful and enduring forces, the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, a colossal ring of water that wrapped itself around the continent like a frozen belt, trapping the cold within and keeping the warmth of the world's equatorial oceans far away. This endless current, flowing without interruption around the pole, isolated Antarctica from heat, sealing it off from the climatic rhythms that once sustained its forests, rivers, and life. The winds grew colder, the seas grew sharper, and with each passing century, the temperature dropped further. Even the atmosphere changed. Slow declines in carbon dioxide levels cooled the planet more than any creature could have predicted, amplifying the frozen isolation that surrounded the southern land. Snowfall that once melted under gentle sunlight began to linger. Season after season, layer upon layer, snow compressed into ice, and ice into vast sheets that thickened relentlessly. Glaciers crept outward, swallowing valleys, drowning rivers, smothering forests that had stood for millions of years. The warm rains of ancient Antarctica became a memory carried only by the soil buried beneath the growing frozen weight. Mountains disappeared under blankets of white. Seas withdrew. Temperatures plunged to levels no living human had ever encountered. For a time, life resisted. For a time, the ancient world fought back. But nature had shifted, and the force of this transformation was far greater than any creature's will. The Earth had entered its great cooling cycle, and Antarctica, wrapped in its unbroken ring of cold ocean and wind, became the epicenter of a new age. The Ice Age was not a moment. It was a long, slow breath of the planet, a breath that deepened over millions of years until Antarctica stood transformed into the frozen kingdom we know today, a vast monument to the power of climate, isolation, and time. And thus the forests fell silent, the great beasts vanished. The early humans who once thrived on those lands departed into the unknown, and the continent's warm heartbeat faded beneath an ocean of ice, waiting for someone, anyone, to discover the truth hidden beneath its frozen skin. And so, once the great transformation of Antarctica had been set into motion by the drifting of continents, The opening of ancient sea passages, the birth of powerful ocean currents, and the slow cooling of Earth's atmosphere. The land that had once teemed with forests and creatures of astonishing size slipped gradually into the embrace of an age defined by frost and silence. An age that would erase nearly every trace of the vibrant paradise that had existed before. The Ice Age did not descend in a single sweep, but rather crept across the land with patient inevitability, year after year laying down its pale shroud, until the warm winds that once whispered through ferns and towering trees faded into memories held only by the stones buried beneath the ice. As the world transformed, the ancient humans who had walked the valleys and riverbanks of this once green continent watched the seasons grow harsher, the sunlight grow weaker, and the earth beneath their feet begin to harden with frost that lingered far longer than any of their ancestors had experienced. They observed the skies shift, the stars drifting in patterns they interpreted with a wisdom older than written language, recognizing not individual events but the slow turning of the world toward a colder destiny. They must have sensed that the land they loved was changing into something new, something immense and unfamiliar, something that no amount of ritual or prayer could avert. And as the first glaciers expanded across the plains, swallowing hunting grounds and drinking pools, these early humans gathered what they could, clung to their traditions, and sought paths northward, hoping to outrun the advancing cold, even as they carried the stories of their homeland with them. Yet even as human footsteps faded from Antarctica's surface, the forces shaping the continent were only just beginning their long, continuous work. The ice grew thicker each century, its weight pressing down upon the land, reshaping mountains, crushing forests, redirecting ancient rivers into frozen veins that would one day fossilize entire ecosystems. Valleys that had once echoed with the calls of animals fell into a quiet so profound it seemed to swallow time itself. Mountain peaks disappeared under layers of white so deep they became indistinguishable from the sky. Every passing millennium added new pages to the frozen archive, capturing within its crystalline walls the last traces of everything that had lived, breathed, or dreamed beneath those darkening skies. Millions of years passed in this frozen stillness, yet the earth continued to turn. Civilizations rose and fell across distant continents, oceans shifted their boundaries, and human culture evolved beyond the wildest imagination of the early tribes whose ancestors once lived in harmony with this southern land. Knowledge expanded, empires spread, science flourished, yet Antarctica remained sealed, untouched, a continent locked away from history, waiting for the moment when the world would once again turn its gaze toward the frozen crown of the planet. And when humans finally rediscovered Antarctica in the modern age, they approached it not with the instinctive reverence of their ancient ancestors, but with the curiosity of explorers and the tools of engineers, armed with machines capable of drilling through ice older than any human civilization. At first they expected nothing more than cold, rock, and emptiness. Instead, they found the ghosts of forests that had flourished beneath warm skies, the imprints of rivers that once flowed like arteries across the continent's vibrant body, and the preserved remains of giant creatures whose presence confirmed the unimaginable truth that Antarctica had once been a world overflowing with life. What stunned them most, however, were the deeper mysteries. The geometric striations carved into bedrock far below the ice, the symmetrical shapes revealed by radar deep within subglacial mountains, the fragments of carved stone and sharpened tools buried in frozen sediment layers that predated all known human civilizations. These findings, never fully disclosed, never clearly explained, suggested a past intertwined with humanity in ways that modern science could neither confirm nor comfortably dismiss. They hinted at the possibility that long before recorded history began, human ancestors more advanced than previously believed had not only walked the warm valleys of Antarctica, but may have flourished there. And now, as temperatures shift and glaciers melt along the continent's edges, new revelations begin to rise from the depths, like the resurfacing of forgotten dreams. The ice, once absolute and unmoving, begins to reveal its treasures slowly, carefully, as though aware of the magnitude of what it releases. Fossilized trees stand upright in thawing soil. Enormous bones of long-lost animals emerge from melting ice walls. Rock surfaces with strange carvings glint under the pale Antarctic sun. Each discovery is more than an artifact. Each is a question posed to humanity, a question about our origins, our migrations, our lost knowledge, and the civilizations erased by time. As scientists piece these fragments together, a greater narrative begins to form, one that intertwines climate, geology, biology, and human history into a single breathtaking story. Antarctica's ice age was not merely an event, it was a rebirth, a transformation that preserved the past while preparing the land for revelations that would emerge millions of years later. Beneath the ice lies not only Earth's oldest memories, but the possibility of understanding humanity's earliest encounters with a world so ancient and powerful that it defies the boundaries of imagination. And as we stand now, at a moment in history, when the ice is thinning for the first time in countless ages, the continent seems poised to reveal the final pieces of its long-hidden truth, a truth that could reshape everything we know about the planet, about the species that came before us, and about the deep, intertwined story that binds all life to the shifting pulse of Earth itself. Even today, long after satellites have mapped every coastline and aircraft have crossed every sky, the great nations of the world maintain an almost obsessive presence in Antarctica, building research stations upon its frozen plains, establishing networks of laboratories and observation posts, and sending teams of scientists into the heart of the most unforgiving landscape on Earth. Officially, these outposts exist for climate monitoring, astronomy, geology, and peaceful scientific cooperation. But behind the carefully worded agreements and the polished press releases lies a deeper, quieter motive, one that stretches back to the first moment satellites glimpsed shapes beneath the ice that no one could explain, shapes that hinted the continent's history was far older, far stranger, and far more important than humanity had ever imagined. From the moment the first ice cores revealed pollen from ancient forests, from the moment deep radar scans exposed the ghostly outlines of river systems buried beneath miles of frost, and from the moment unexplained geometric formations were detected in the bedrock, the largest powers on Earth realized that Antarctica was not simply a frozen wilderness. It was a vault, a massive repository of lost worlds and forgotten time, holding secrets that could redefine everything we know about our past. Nations that normally compete fiercely for power suddenly shared one silent understanding. Whatever lay beneath the ice of Antarctica was too important to ignore, too mysterious to leave unstudied, and perhaps too dangerous to reveal to the general world before its meaning was fully understood. Thus, the research stations grew, not only in number but in sophistication, connected by underground tunnels, shielded laboratories, and restricted zones accessible only to those with the highest clearance. Scientists selected for these missions are often experts in fields far beyond the official purposes of the Antarctic Treaty. Paleoclimatologists share space with anthropologists. Marine biologists work beside astrophysicists, and in certain remote sectors guarded by unmarked equipment and unnamed personnel, specialists study anomalous readings that never appear in public reports. These teams are tasked with trying to decipher why Antarctica's climate shifted so abruptly, how its ecosystems vanished so completely, and what remnants of pre-Ice Age civilizations might lie concealed beneath the ice. Discoveries that could alter the narrative of human origins, forcing the world to reconsider its timelines, its migrations, even its concept of civilization itself. The great powers understand that whoever unlocks these secrets will not only rewrite history, but shape the future. For the knowledge sealed beneath Antarctica may include advanced environmental data about ancient atmospheric conditions, clues about catastrophic climate events, or even evidence of human activity so ancient it challenges the foundation of archaeological science. The possibility that early humans, or an unknown branch of humanity, thrived in a warm Antarctic world tempts governments with both intellectual curiosity and geopolitical ambition. To uncover such truths is to gain access to knowledge that could influence energy research, climate modeling, genetic studies, and the global understanding of human survival in extreme conditions. This is why secrecy surrounds so much of the work conducted on the continent. Ordinary people see research bases and assume scientists are measuring temperatures or studying penguins. But beneath those ice-cold floors lies a deeper purpose. Nations want to understand what Antarctica was before the Ice Age, what was lost when the freeze began, and whether something remains beneath the ice that might still awaken the world's imagination or unsettle it. The fear is not of danger but of revelation, for to reveal too quickly what they suspect might lie there could disrupt not just science but the entire structure of human history as we know it. Thus, the great nations dig deeper each year, quietly mapping subglacial caves, drilling into ancient lakes untouched by sunlight for millions of years, sending radar beams through miles of ice, and retrieving samples that almost never make their way into public archives. They are searching for more than fossils. They are searching for meaning. The meaning of Earth's past, of humanity's beginnings, and of a warm, thriving world that existed where now only wind and ice remain. And while the world sleeps, unaware of the magnitude of the discoveries being quietly assembled in frozen laboratories, Antarctica continues to whisper through every melting glacier, every shifting ice shelf, and every relic brought to the surface. A whisper that grows louder each year, urging humanity toward a truth that no nation can conceal forever. And now, as we reach the final chapter of this long and winding journey through the forgotten past of Antarctica, we stand at the edge of a revelation that stretches far beyond the boundaries of science, beyond the limitations of history, beyond the narrow frameworks through which humanity has always attempted to understand the world. Has unfolded into a vast and humbling truth about the Earth we inhabit, the species we belong to, and the endless cycles of life and transformation that shape every continent, every ocean, every breath of wind that touches our skin. In the silent depths of Antarctica's frozen heart lies not just the memory of a lost world, but a message whispered through millions of years of ice, urging us to look deeper, to listen closer, and to recognize that the past is not dead, but merely sleeping beneath our feet. The warm forests that once covered Antarctica, the creatures that roamed beneath its ancient sun, the early humans who built their lives along its rivers and valleys, all of them were part of a world governed by balance, by rhythms of nature so precise and harmonious that life flourished without interruption for millions of years. That world did not vanish because it was weak or flawed. It vanished because the Earth itself shifted, turning its axis, shaping its oceans, resetting its climate in a cycle far larger than any creature could control. The Ice Age claimed the land slowly, deliberately, with a patience that mirrored time itself, leaving behind layer upon layer of frozen memory, memories of ferns whispering in warm breezes, of giant creatures grazing beneath towering trees, of early humans lifting their faces toward a sun that never fully set. And when the cold finally took the land in its entirety, sealing forests beneath glaciers, locking rivers into frozen stillness, forcing humans and animals into distant migrations, Antarctica became something new, a vast, silent vault capable of preserving the world exactly as it had been in its final moments of warmth. The ice did not destroy, it preserved, it recorded, it remembered. And for millions of years, while civilizations rose and fell on continents far away, Antarctica waited, cold, still, patient, holding its secrets until humanity was ready to learn them. When the modern age arrived with satellites, radar, drilling machines, and scientific curiosity sharper than ever before, Antarctica began to whisper once more. Scientists pulled ice cores containing trapped air from ancient atmospheres, revealing climates that modern humans could barely imagine. They uncovered fossilized forests, discovered subglacial lakes harboring ancient life, and detected strange geometric patterns carved into bedrock by forces or hands unknown. And as each discovery emerged from the ice, nations realized that this quiet continent held answers to questions older than humanity itself, answers about climate, about biology, about geology, and perhaps even about civilization. This is why the world's great powers remain in Antarctica today, building research centers in its coldest regions, establishing secret laboratories, digging deeper with every passing year, not only to understand the present, but to uncover the truth buried beneath millions of years of ice. Publicly, they speak of climate models, glaciology, and environmental science. Privately, they seek something more: the full story of the warm Antarctic world, the fate of its early inhabitants, the reasons behind its sudden transformation, and the knowledge that ancient humans may have carried before fleeing the encroaching cold. They search for tools, symbols, structures, anything that might confirm the idea that humanity's origins are richer, older, and more complex than textbooks say. Yet the greatest truth of Antarctica is not found in a single fossil or carving or structure. It is found in the realization that Earth is alive, not in the sense of a beating heart or a conscious mind, but in its ability to transform, to evolve, to create and recreate worlds over the span of geological time. The Earth we know today, with its continents and climates and species, is merely one version of a planet that has worn countless faces over billions of years, and Antarctica, more than any other place, stands as a monument to this eternal transformation, a land that was once green and warm, then white and frozen, now slowly thawing again as the world enters a new era. As we contemplate the future, we understand that the melting ice may reveal far more than ancient forests and forgotten fossils. It may reveal the last echoes of early humans who lived at the edge of the world, carrying knowledge and stories that survived only in distant myths. It may unlock biological secrets preserved in subglacial lakes, secrets that could reshape our understanding of life's resilience and adaptability. It may expose structures or imprints left behind by those who walked the continent long before civilization began elsewhere. And perhaps, when enough ice has melted, when enough patience has been shown, when enough minds are open, the full truth will emerge. A truth that binds the ancient world to our modern one. A truth that shows humanity not as a newcomer, but as a participant in a far older, far grander story. One that stretches from the warm forests of prehistoric Antarctica to the frozen silence that blankets it today. In the end, Antarctica is not merely a place. It is a mirror, reflecting the past, warning the present, and guiding the future. It reminds us that worlds can vanish, civilizations can fall, climates can change, and landscapes can transform beyond recognition. Yet the memory of what once was never truly disappears. It waits, it rests. It lives in the deep places of the earth, preserved in ice, ready to speak again when we are prepared to listen. And so this documentary comes to a close, not with certainty but with wonder, not with conclusions but with questions, and not with fear of the unknown, but with reverence for the vastness of time. Antarctica, the forbidden continent, the frozen giant, the keeper of ancient worlds, stands before us not as a riddle, but as an invitation to explore, to understand, and to remember. For beneath the ice lies the story of Earth. Beneath the ice lies the story of us. And as the ice melts, the truth finally rises.